Good evening. I'm going to be flying solo again tonight. My son had an emergency drain problem at home. His main drain. Somebody did some work on his street, and they broke his main drain from his house to the street. And so they're working on that tonight, trying to get that all straightened out. But anyhow, welcome everybody. Um, Glad to see everybody come back every week. That's awesome. I wish my son could be here, but you know what? Things happen, and there's nothing we can do about that. So anyway, we're going to talk about pro touring and restomods tonight. The way I see the industry going, and keep in mind, I've been doing this a long time. I've been in business 43 years, and the I watched the muscle car trend start. I can remember back in the like mid '70s telling everybody, even my dad, that the muscle cars are going to be worth a lot of money someday, and people didn't believe me. And so I wish I could have bought as many of them as I could back then, but unfortunately, I was just starting out in life, didn't have a lot of money, so didn't I couldn't buy a bunch of cars. But anyways, the so with me developing the new products and stuff, I mean, a lot of guys are saying, why are you investing in these old cars, and especially Pontiacs? And I tell them, I said, the future of these cars is actually, in my opinion, very, very strong. The guys that grew up with these cars, they're in a place in life now where they can afford to buy their dream car that they wanted in high school that they couldn't afford back then, kind of like myself. And you're raising family and paying bills and putting kids through college. You just don't have the extra cash. So now these guys, and I'm gonna, it's not just the baby boomers; it's the next crowd too. So the 40, like mid 40s, even late 30-year old guys and gals are getting into these muscle cars. But what I'm seeing going on is that they don't want stock number matching cars anymore. You got a handful of guys that do, but majority of the guys that I'm going and looking at. Another thing, I don't know if you guys know I do or not, but part of my business here, my insurance agent's the one that got me involved with this, but I do car inspections and appraisals too. And so I get to see a lot of different cars. I get to meet a lot of different people from all walks of life, from all over the country, actually all over the world. I got several customers from Sweden and Australia that buy cars, and I go look at them for them. And but anyways, so I get to see the trend. I see what's going on, and so what's happening right now is. The people want muscle cars, but they want the late model comforts. And what that means is they want air conditioning, they want four-wheel disc brakes, they want overdrive transmissions, whether it be a 5-speed, 6-speed, or automatic overdrive like a 4L60E or 4L80E. Even some of the guys are starting to go now with a 6 and 8-speed overdrive transmissions, automatics I'm talking about. So, but they want lots of horsepower. They want fuel injection. They want air conditioning. They want power windows. They want the bolstered seats. They're not satisfied with the old muscle car handling and performance and feel. So what they're doing, but they do want that look. They want that muscle car look. And you can't duplicate that. I mean, there's a couple companies out there that are making body kits for the Trans Am or for the Camaros to make them look like Trans Ams and GTOs and Chevelles. And I don't know if they're doing an early Camaro or not, but there's a couple companies doing that, and they're selling those cars for big money. And so way I see things going are, people wanting to buy, and the reason I see this is because the fact that I'm going to look at all these cars for different people, and right now the trend is Restomods and Pro Touring. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to, some of you guys, all of us are kind of vague on what a resto mod or a pro touring car is. What a resto mod car is a factory muscle car that has, like say, an 18-inch wheel and tire on it, four-wheel disc brakes, a five-speed instead of a four-speed, maybe a digital dash, like a Dakota digital dash in it, and possibly fuel injection. But you're still retaining the factory frame and pretty much most of the driveline. So it'd be like a factory engine, carbureted or fuel injected. The rear ends might be a 12 bolt if it's a GM car. Of course, Ford's had Ford 9-inches already, and Chrysler's had Dana 60. So, and the Chevys have 12 volts. So, you might see that under a resto mod type build. And they pretty much look like a factory car on the outside. They might have an aftermarket wheel, but other than that, they look pretty stock. Now, the Pro Touring cars, that car is a step above, actually a couple steps above the resto mods. Pro Touring cars have aftermarket frames. They have sometimes independent four-wheel suspension on them. They got the big brakes on them. They got like Brembos or big Wheelwoods or Bear brakes on them. They have custom 19 and 20-inch rims, which they're whenever you buy a rim like that, they're usually anywhere from $8,000 to $12,000 a set for a set of wheels alone, not including the tires. And the frames are usually like a rod shop or a Schwartz chassis or something like that, some kind of a custom frame. It's not a factory frame anymore. So it's got coilover suspension on it, and tubular control arms, and Ford 9-inch rear ends in them and stuff like that. Now a lot of guys are doing the LS stuff, and with the Pro Touring cars, that seems to be the trend right now. And that's kind of why I am going to do what I'm doing. I want to get away from the LS, and I want to be competitive with the LS market or the LS engine with us Pontiac guys. So that's the whole reason I'm developing the new cylinder heads, the engine blocks, the intake manifolds, and yada, yada, yada. So eventually what we want to do is we want to build resto mods and Pro Touring cars. We want to build brand new cars. It's probably going to start out slow. We might do 1 or 2 a year at first, but eventually I'd like to do maybe 10 or 12 a year. And of course, these cars are not your typical restoration type cars. Like currently to restore like a 70 GTO, we'll say, is if you do a frame off restoration on that car, you're going to spend 150, 200 grand now. And but these resto mods, you're probably going to be a little bit higher than that. It might be around 300, 350. And then a Pro Touring car, you can spend as much as a couple $1 million on one of those. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but like one of the pictures I shared on my Facebook for tonight's show was Kevin Hart's Pro Touring 69 GTO. And I don't know for sure how much he's got in that car. Rumor has it it's over $1 million build. So Pro Touring cars, you can spend a lot of money. And of course, the sky's the limit, and you can build a car any way you want. And that's the other thing that's cool about this, is you can build the car any way you like it. You might want to make it a wide body. You might want to add spoilers front and back, or you might slam the thing on the ground. I mean, there's just so many options you can do. So, I'm trying to prepare for the future of the way I see things going. Now, unfortunately, what it's going to do is it's going to limit your audience, because not everybody can afford one of these kind of cars. I mean, let's face it. A lot of guys can't even barely afford to buy one of these. I mean, a decent like 69 or 70 GTO, not even a Judge, or they're going for 50, 60 grand now. And that's one needing a lot of work, or it's had a backyard, I'll call it, restoration, and it still needs quite a bit. So you're going to spend today, to get a decent muscle car, you're going to spend $100,000 by the time it's all said and done. So it's not unrealistic to think that a Restomod is going to be 250 to 350, and a pro touring car is going to be half a million to $1 million. And so that's definitely where I see it going. Now, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to modernize our Pontiac engines with good cylinder heads that are going to flow good right out of the box and compete with the LS stuff. A lot of you guys know, some of you don't, but the LS cylinder heads, they're kick-ass head. And they, like your LS3 heads or an LS7 head, those are 300 CFM head right from the factory. And that's why the factory's starting to use camshafts with up to 600 inches of lift, because they want to utilize that port. And so, this fallacy that big ports, or I shouldn't say big ports, high flowing ports kill torque is not true. What happened in the old days, because guys didn't know how to port heads, they didn't know what they didn't know, and they were just making the hole big and not considering the shape of the port, especially a short turn. We've talked about that on the show. And yeah, you might get a decent flow number or a good flow number on the bench, but it kills the flow path and doesn't suspend the fuel, and then you end up with a turd. But that's not the case anymore. You know what? We've learned a lot over the last 30 years, and the new cylinder head technology is amazing. And you can have a good flowing cylinder head that makes killer torque even on smaller cubic inch engines. Now, some of you guys have been following. Now, one of the other things we're doing too is we're doing engine blocks, and we're going to make quite a few improvements to the engine block. And part of it's adapting the engine block so that we can use later model transmissions. And so that's part of our deal that we're working on. The other thing is we're working on intake manifold, and I'm working with a fella named John Coggin, and or Cogger, might be Cogger, I'm sorry. Anyways, he made some post recently on Facebook with an LSA style supercharger on a Pontiac 455, and so him and I are going to be working together, and I think that I'm going to be a distributor for his products. With the so that it can, I mean, it's going to be able to be used with my new heads that I just come out with, the round port and D ports, and we're going to make a version for the Ram Air 5. So how cool is it going to be to have an engine that is like a late model Hellcat or ZL1 Camaro or a Corvette with a supercharger on it that on pump gas will make 1,000 horsepower. You can have your air conditioning, and you can cruise this thing across the country, just like the new cars. And that's what we're working towards. And now, obviously, that's not going to be cheap to do. So, these guys, I deal with this every day anymore, because a lot of guys are, older guys are restoring their old cars, and they call me for an engine build, and they're still stuck back in the 70s and 80s when an engine build was $2,800 or $3,800, and we can't even buy parts for that anymore, guys. Stock engine rebuilds now, because of COVID and inflation over the last 4 years, they went from, it used to be $6,500 for a stock build. Now stock builds $10,000 to $12,000. I mean, it just is what it is. And part of it is because we can't use a flat tappet cam right now, because we're having trouble with lifters and cam failures, so we have to run a roller cam in it, which adds quite a bit to the cost of the engine build. But so with with all these things going on and the way the environment's changing in the world, it's crazy to think that what's going to be normal is going to be $100,000 to $200,000 car. But that's just the way. I mean, I've seen it evolve over the years. Back in 1983, when I first started my business, actually I opened the doors to a business. I started my business in '81, but back in '83 when I opened the doors, my first engine build, I think I was telling you guys, around $1,800, and I was rebuilding carburetors. I started my business as Don's Carburetor. It was called Don's Carburetor, low prices, and I could rebuild a carburetor for $35. Hell, I can't even buy a kit for $35 now. And things have changed quite a bit. But back even in 1983, the muscle cars back then weren't cheap. I mean, I bought a '70 GTO. There was a 455 HO Ram Air car, and I think I paid $10,000 for that car back in 1983. So, and that was a lot of money back then, especially since that car new was probably only around $4,000 or $5,000. But so anyway, the way I see the market going is we're going to start transitioning towards Restomods and Pro Touring. Maybe some kind of a hybrid between a Restomod and a restored classic, because Restomod's kind of wide open. You could be, we could be doing carburetor swaps. We could be doing fuel injection on a classic car, which we do quite a bit, or putting a 5-speed in instead of a 4-speed. We're not really changing the physical characteristics of the car. We're just adding a couple of amenities to make the car fun, more enjoyable to drive. So, but yeah, that's where we're going, and that's way I see things happening. And if that's the case, then that's a good thing, guys, because it's going to keep our muscle cars around for another 25, 30 years. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm going to be, if another 30 years, I'll be 93 years old. So I don't know if I'm even going to be interested in cars at that point in time. If I'm even going to be alive, who knows? So, but anyhow, let me see if you guys got any questions here. I got to look on my live feed here. Let's see. Blah, blah, blah. I don't see no questions on here yet, but we'll see what happens here. It's saying something went wrong on here, so I'm gonna have to look at my phone. Yeah, so I don't know how to scroll through this. Yeah, John, you're right. I don't know if alcohol preserved me or not. I've been drinking alcohol, so I think I'm holding up pretty good still. Matter of fact, I gotta have a drink of my Coors Light right now. I need to get those guys to sponsor my event, my podcast. I mean, I'm advertising for them every week. But so yeah, let's see here. Okay, now I'm starting to see some things here. Good evening, everybody. Yeah, so head page, we're all bit special. Yep, we are all bit special. So yeah, Gen X, BNR Racing. Yeah, you're right. Gen X, them guys are, the guys that are up and coming, and they're ones that actually are changing the market. Believe it or not, though, because I do a lot of car inspections and appraisals for people out of town. This is crazy, but a big part of my audience for that, or my client base, is 80 to 90 years old. And so I'm asking these guys, I said, this is great. I'm happy to see you guys doing this, but why, what's the reason that you're buying these cars at such a late stage of life? And all of them said the same thing. You know what? I've said it before too. They can't take their money with them. And so you know what? I tell people all the time, I've never seen a hearse with a safe in it or a trailer hitch. So you might as well spend your money, because if not, your kids are going to get it and they're going to blow it probably within a 2 or 3 year period after they get it, if not quicker. So you might as well enjoy it while you're here. You worked hard for it. Let's enjoy the money, and let's build some hot rods that are really really cool, and make a difference in our hot rodding community. You know what I mean? Let's do something really badass and build supercharged GTOs and Trans Ams, and with all the amenities: air conditioning, power windows, tinted glass, slammed on the ground, 3-inch exhaust. I mean, let's make them drivable. How fun would 1,000 horsepower be on the street with 19-inch or 20-inch by 14-inch wide tires on the back, kind of like a Corvette, new Corvette? That would be that. I mean, to me, that would be a blast. So, Philip the Third, Don and I are the same model here. So you're 63 also, huh, Philip? Born in 1961. Yeah, Phil, we're going to build that 800 horsepower engine for you, buddy. No problem. Just want to let everybody know too. I sold the 1535 Ram Air 5 engine. I wish it would have went to somebody that was going to build a kick-ass blower engine, because that's what we've set that engine up for. But the guy that bought it, and I get it, he's going to put it in a 69 GTO Judge, and normally aspirated. We're setting it up with fuel injection and throttle body, and he just wants a Ram Air 5 under the hood of a 69 GTO Judge. And I told him, I said, this is way, way overkill, and it's a lot of money to spend for what he's doing. But you know what? Like we just talked about, you can't take your money with you. And he's got it, and he wants that engine, so I'm hooking him up. Fiat Topliano. You know what, Phil? There was one on Facebook Marketplace I seen a couple days ago, and I was going to share that with you, but didn't get a chance to. And I'm not sure if you're on Facebook or not, because I don't correspond with you on Facebook, mostly on YouTube, so or email. So I'm thinking you're not on Facebook, but you might want to get you a Facebook account and look in their marketplace. There was a couple of those Fiats on there. You know what, Michael? I don't know if we got to worry about getting rid of gasoline-powered cars or not. And if they do, okay, let's say that they do throttle back on our traditional gasoline. I think what's going to happen is we're going to end up running hydrogen, and which is good, because hydrogen has a higher octane level, and we can jack the compression up more, so we'll be able to make even more power. For us to go all electric, I don't see that happening, guys. You know what? Electric cars, believe it or not, when they first started building automobiles back in the 1800s, they were electric. Well, why do you think they abandoned that? Probably because it doesn't work. So I love Elon Musk to death. I think that he's going to do a great job if President Trump gets reelected, and he's going to come in, and he's going to be the guy that's the budget guy and cuts all the fat from our government, which I can't wait if that happens. But I don't think, even Elon, I don't think that he even believes that the electric cars are the way of the future. I think that there's a place for electric cars. I don't think that it's going to be everybody's go-to, though. I think that we're going to see hydrogen cars. So I'm not worried in that at all. And you know what? Who knows? Maybe it'll do the opposite. Gasoline cars, the fuel might drop down because nobody's buying it. Drop down to 50s prices, where we're buying gasoline for 50 cents a gallon. How cool would that be? As long as they don't outlaw the cars, which, you know, I think that we need some revamping on the EPA on that. So we'll see what happens with that too. Yeah, Eric, I agree. An Art Morrison chassis is dynamite. I've been looking at those, and I think that that's a possibility of the way I'm going to go with the. I've got a 70 GTO Judge that's going to be a prototype car for me for the new products that I've got. It's a black car with red interior. And originally, I was going to restore that car and make it a 100-point car. I'm not doing that now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to build a custom interior for that with the big bolsters on the seats and put Dakota digital dash in that thing. And uh, I don't think I'm going to put AC on it, but I'm going to put a Magnum 6-speed in it. We're going to put a Dana 60 under it, tint the glass. It's going to look pretty much like a factory 70 GTO Judge, except for it's going to be slammed on the ground. It's going to have 19s or 20s on the back and 18s or 19s on the front, and we're going to have a blown Ram Air 5 engine underneath the hood of that thing with AC and power steering and hydro boost brakes, and we're going to go all out on that car, and that's going to be kind of our flagship to show off our products at car shows at the Muscle Car and Corvette convention over there, and I think that's in Chicago or Illinois, and some of the PRI and SEMA shows and the Good Guy shows. So that's the goal. So yeah, you know what? 86 Grand Prix are cool too. I used to race Grand Prix. That was my go-to because I could buy them cheap, and they had a full frame under them. So I raced a lot of, I had an 80 Grand Prix and I had an 81 Grand Prix, and I drag raced those back in the day. But yeah. So yeah, I seen too that today in the news, the GM is making headway on their electric car. So I thought they abandoned it, but it doesn't appear that they did. I don't, I think that it cost them a lot of money, and right now the only thing that's making them money is their trucks. Their cars are not really doing too well. So I don't know what their plans are. Yeah, the 6L80 truck transmission is getting popular. That actually, I got a guy that just reached out to me here a couple days ago that wants to build a Ram Air 5 for drag racing, and he's actually going to use a 6L80. I think it's an 8-speed transmission. Is that what those are? I'm not sure. I'm not up on the late model automatic transmissions too much. I know that they got 8 and 10 and 12 speeds now. I don't know, but anyhow, I think it's an 8-speed that he wants to put in his drag car, which is, yeah, that's pretty cool. And his whole thought process is to keep the engine and power band the whole length of the racetrack. So, but yeah, that's where we're going to with that. So we'll see where that goes. But that I don't know what you guys think about all this. I get, sometimes I get feedback, sometimes I don't. And I'm always open to or welcoming any thoughts and ideas on what you guys think is going to happen and how it's going to go down. But the future of our muscle cars, if we want to keep them around, we're going to have to adapt. And I don't like putting an LS engine in a Pontiac. I'm sorry, I can't bring myself to do that. We build LS engines here, and fortunately, I've been able to talk everybody out. I shouldn't say most, everybody out of putting an LS in their Pontiac. But I know that eventually I'm going to get somebody that's stubborn, and that's what they're going to want to do. And you know what? It's a GM engine at least, and I'm okay with that. The guys that are running Chrysler's and Fords, those poor guys, they, there's so many people putting LS engines in Chrysler's and Fords right now. It's crazy. And I'm not really sure why. I mean, Ford's got that Coyote dual, overhead cam engine, which is basically a Hemi head. That's got to be a badass little engine. I've never built one, so I don't know for sure. But, and Chrysler's got their Hemi. So why are these guys putting LS engines in those cars? But, yeah, so... Yeah, original Trans Ams, they're bringing big money right now. And so that's what makes me think that a Restomod car is going to bring even more. I mean, if we do, build these cars, some of them are going to be clones or, I don't know what you want to call it, but anyhow, there we might take a 70 or 71 Firebird and turn it into a Trans Am. It may have not originally been a Trans Am car, but we're building these brand new, so we can build however we want. I just need a VIN tag and a title so that we don't have to deal with the emission stuff. But I was just talking to somebody the other day, and maybe some of you guys know here, I don't know, that the if you don't build more than 150 cars, I think, a year, you don't have to worry about the emissions. You can build brand new cars. So if that's the case, then I won't have to worry about it. I'll just build a brand new car if we can get bodies from Dynacorn or somebody like that. Otherwise, I still have to have the main body so that we can build off of it. So, but that's where we're going with that. But yeah, not sure what Dave Smith means. Oh, not why not keep it real? You know what? If that's your deal, if you like 100% original cars, I'm all down with that. I'm not saying you have to build a Restomod. Me personally, I've built so many factory original 100-point matching cars in my life that they're boring to me now. I want a challenge. I want something different. I like something that's nobody else has. And that's why I like the Restomod Pro Touring cars. You go to a car show, and let's say it's a Pontiac show, and you'll look at 100 GTO judges, and they're all original. Okay, well, after the second or third one, who cares? Do you even stop and look at those cars? Most of the time, people just walk right on by them. They don't even look at them. But if you have a Restomod or a Pro Touring car sitting there next to a 100-point original car, look at the crowd that car draws, and that's what I like. I wanna create stuff that's really different than everybody else's. Make it yours. Build this car the way you like it, not the way that everybody tries to make everybody believe that everybody wants a 100-point car. Once you make a car like that, and then you can't drive it, and so it's basically just nothing but a big giant knickknack, and there's no enjoyment in just trailering that car to car shows. I want to build these cars, these new Restomod and Pro Touring cars. People are driving these cars, and they're beating the hell out of them, and they're fun to drive. That's why they're driving them. So I remember a time running GPs the fastest ever. What's the fastest you ever run? Anyone here run faster than Ed Page? Ed Page's car's hauling ass. That car's fast, and that's a street car too. So I don't know that anybody on here tonight's been faster than Ed Page, but that's he's got a Ram Air 5 engine in his '69 Firebird, and that's got a factory hood on it, and so it's not scooped, and it doesn't look like a race car. I mean, it kind of does because it got a spoiler on the back of it and big tires, but if it had a 10.5-inch wide tire on it and didn't have that spoiler to keep the thing stable at 200 mile an hour, because that's what he's running, then that car would look like any other street car out there, and it's pretty badass. I mean, it did a really good job maintaining that factory look, and I love it. So you know what? I appreciate that, Mark. We'll get you done. Hopefully, ready to cruise for next summer. Dave Smith, no, no trailer queen. Good, because you know what? Trailer queens. These cars were meant to be driven, and I see so many guys. They will build these cars and restore them over the top, and then they don't drive them, and then they end up selling them. That's what I did with mine. I had a '65 GTO convertible. Some of you guys seen it. A beautiful car when we got done with it. We done it for the IX show, the year of COVID, and they actually ended up canceling the show, and so I didn't even get to take the car to the IX show, and but it turned out so nice that I didn't drive the car. So I sold it. I'm not going to own a car if I'm not driving it. And that car was way too nice. It was over the top. And once you start driving them, they deteriorate rapidly. So you're going to lose your money that you invest in it. So you have to sell it before you drive it, which is, why you have it if you're not going to drive it. Dave Smith, my place your driver. Cool. But Philip Third wants to build with a trailer hitch. You know what? A lot of the drag and drive cars, those guys have trailer hitches on their cars because they got to pull a little trailer behind them for their slicks and maintenance parts or whatever they got to survive drag week. So yeah, build it with a trailer hitch. That'd be cool. You're not gonna have me stuffed. My wife wants to put me 6 foot under. So, what are you guys' thoughts on the pro touring cars? I mean, I know what Dave's thinking there, but what do you other guys think about the pro touring stuff or the Restomods? The you know, these cars are, in my opinion, are built to be enjoyed. So we need to carry that on and make these things fun to drive and add the late model amenities to it. I mean, my wife's car is a '68 Firebird convertible. I didn't want to go crazy with that car, although I did put a Ram Air 5 engine in it. And the only reason I put the Ram Air 5 in her car, I mean, obviously I wanted the horsepower, but the other reason is because um, I needed to test my product, and I needed a car that I could, because we drive that car. You know, we get in that car and we'll drive. You know, it isn't unusual for us to go for a ride and put 200 miles on that thing. And eventually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put an overdrive tranny in it and 373 gear, put the AC on the car, and I'll take that thing to Tennessee and visit my daughter down in Nashville, which is about a 9 hour ride for us. And I'm gonna enjoy that car. I built that car to have fun with. I put a new Stay Fast top on that thing. We're gonna put I put fuel injection on it, so we're gonna put the 4L80E transmission in the thing with a lockup converter, and I'm gonna probably put a 12 bolt under it with a 373 gear and all-wheel disc brakes. So I'm going to build a Restomod out of that car is what we're going to do. I might even mini tub it a little bit, so we can put a little bit wider tire on it because right now, even with the 273 ring gear in that car and 2400 stall converter, it just annihilates the tires. So I need to be able to get a bigger tire underneath that thing and make it so it'll hook up a little better so we can enjoy the horsepower more. But yeah, so who's up? But there's a nice Pro Touring Restomod and Acura GTO. Yeah, there was a nice 64 GTO. I think that was a Pro Touring car. I don't know who owned it or anything, but that was a pretty cool car. Some of it was well done. Ken Diggett, I think, has done a couple of Pontiacs. He did a 65 and I think he's done a 64. And I think he did a 70 GTO, maybe. I don't know. Maybe some of you guys. I don't watch TV a lot, so I only get to see it on the internet once in a while, or somebody will tell me about it. But I think that Ken Diggett's done quite a few Pontiacs, but I think they got LS engines. They don't have Pontiac engines in them. They might. I don't know. I don't know what I don't know, but yeah, maybe you guys know. There's a lot of builders do Pontiacs. I mean, Pontiac is actually a pretty popular brand, and the reason that I think that we haven't seen a lot of Pontiacs built is because we haven't really had any up-to-date modern products for our Pontiacs, in the last 20 years. So now with what we're going to be doing with the LSA style superchargers and with the new cylinder heads I just come out with and new Ram Air 5 stuff that we have and the fuel injection intakes and stuff that we're going to be developing, this is, it's going to allow people to come back to the Pontiac brand because now we can build horsepower and we can build RPMs. The big thing is in the past, with a factory cylinder head, even the Edelbrocks are a little bit limited unless you do a white port, but you're all done by 5,500 usually for most Pontiac engines, and And these guys like to wind them up. You know, they're used to the small block Chevys that will spin to, 7,000 RPM, even though a lot of them guys have poor memory because the factory 327s and stuff like that, they were all done by 6,000 RPM too. But if you listen to all them guys tell the story, every one of them has had a 8,000 or 9,000 or 10,000 RPM small block Chevy, and there's not that many of those out there. Eric, the LSA superchargers, like the ones that they use on the late model Hellcats and the Camaros and Corvettes. It's kind of like got a flat top on it, and it looks like an engine cover is what it looks like, but it's so it's compact and it fits underneath the hood of the car. And so we're gonna start. Low. It's a low plane style. Yep. Yep. And so we, with a lot of these guys, everybody wants to maintain the factory hood because it is a cool looking hood. Pontiac had it going on with their hoods back in the day, with the scoops on them. They're just badass looking in a Trans Am with a shaker. How cool would it be with an LSA style supercharger with a shaker on it? That. I mean, in my opinion, it doesn't get any better than that. But yeah, small block Chevy to 8Gs. That's because of the difference between SD and HO these days. Yeah. Yeah, so we got it. It's pretty exciting what's going to happen. And so we'll see what happens. It's going to take me a couple of years to get the point where I'm going to be building these cars. I think Joe Morgan's watching tonight. And so Joe, he just started his own body shop, and so big shout out to him and his wife Priscilla. They jumped off the diving board into the deep water and they're swimming now. So I wish him a lot of luck. Hope he does well. I'm going to try to help him do that. And but anyhow, I want to work with Joe, and he's got a couple good young guys working with him, and we're going to start building frames and building our own headers in house and. We got a lot going on, but it takes time, takes money, and it takes people to learn. We gotta get these guys trained first so that the skill level's there. And not only that, you gotta be efficient. If you want to make money at doing this, you gotta be efficient. You cannot. That's the reason why in the automotive world, like a dealership, it's flat rate. You cannot go by somebody that has poor skill level and charge a customer because if the brake job for an average skilled technician can be finished in an hour and a half, and I'm talking about doing it right, cleaning the slides, re-greasing the pins, and doing everything the way you're supposed to. Not just pulling the caliper off, putting new pads in, and throwing it back together. I'm talking about doing it the right way. The book calls for an hour and a half, and your tech takes 5 hours to do it. You can't charge the customer because of his inefficiency. And same thing with this, with what we're going to be doing with building these Restomods. The guys, if we're going to do this, this assembly line type deal, it's got to be efficient, and we got to get things done in an efficient, fast way. You can't do it by the hour. If you're going to do it by the hour, then we're not going to be able to do it, and you just have to keep building for customers. What we got to do is we got to figure out a way to streamline it and get it done in a production line fashion, and make it so it's affordable. I mean, even though $350,000 is a lot of money, but it's way more affordable than $1 million. And if you're going to do it by the hour and you're going to charge these guys $1 million, you're not going to get very many customers. But believe it or not, there's plenty of guys out there who want to spend $300, $350. And Joe's at his shop right now working. I seen you got the tranny in Priscilla's car. Awesome. She gets to drive it a little bit. And we're actually having really killer weather here in Ohio right now. Our weather has been in the 70s and 80s last about 4 or 5 days. So it's been beautiful here. Sunshine too, no rain. Absolutely gorgeous. Now tomorrow I think is going to cool off. It's going to get down around 55 for a high tomorrow, and probably 37 for a low. But I think this is our Indian summer. So us people in Northeast Ohio, actually the northeastern part of the United States, we better enjoy this while it's here because it's short lived, and we know what's coming next. So October's almost over. We're going into November, and that starts, working towards winter. We're deep in the fall season at that point. All right, guys. Well, you know what? I don't have anything to really share tonight. I just want to give you guys a little insight of what I think is going to happen in the future of our muscle cars. And some of you, it looks like, still want to do the factory style cars, and that's cool. There's nothing wrong with that. You know what? I'm into that too, just not as much as I used to be. So, classic car mechanic, hot rod, full custom rod shops. No one wants to do it right. Unfortunately, and that's why we're overwhelmed and we're so busy is because the shops, the ones that are still around, a lot of them closed up after COVID. We lost probably about 15 shops in our area here in the last 4 years because of COVID, and mostly because we couldn't get parts and we couldn't hire people, and they jacked the wages up so high that it's ridiculous. I cannot pay a guy $20 or $25 an hour that has zero skills. That's just ridiculous. And anybody that thinks they're going to go get a job and not have any skills and make $25 an hour right out of the gate, there might be places out there that'll do that for you, but it's not realistic. It cannot happen because you're not going to make the business money, and we can't charge the customers more money because you don't have the skills yet and you got to learn. It just doesn't work that way. It's kind of like what I was just talking about, streamlining, being more efficient, getting the job done properly and at a fair pace. It just, it, our government that's in charge right now has ruined the economy, and because of the fact that they're force feeding $20 an hour wages down our throat to unskilled labor. Half these people don't even want to work. They just want to come show up, get a paycheck, and play on their phone all damn day. Well, you know what? Don't come here because you're not going to get a job. I don't have time for that, and I cannot pay you to stay on your phone. It costs a lot of money to keep the business open, and I have to have somebody that's going to be productive and makes the business money. That's just the way it works. Capitalistic system, that's how it works. Otherwise, we're socialist, and I'm not a socialist. So, double since COVID down $40 an hour. That's just unbelievable. And so you know what? And good for you. That's awesome that you can make that kind of money, and I'm happy for you. But you know what? Who's going to end up paying for that? It's not going to be you. Well, you might ultimately, because you're going to go to somewhere where they're paying their people $40 an hour. And guess what? A hamburger just went from $2 to $10. So do any of us make out whenever this happens? I don't think so. I think it gets worse, and they know it, and that's why they do it. The other part is, too, the government's saying, yeah, you know what? Raise them wages. And you know why? Because now they're going to get more tax dollars. So it's an evil, no good system. It doesn't work, and it's going to fail. That's why all the great empires have failed. And if we don't get this straightened out, our system's going to fail too. So, but yep, I haven't had it since 1983. I was making $2.85 an hour. That was minimum wage back in 1983 because I made that too. Yeah, I was a manager, made that. I was working at car wash, and I was a manager of the car wash, and that's all I made was $2.85 an hour. You were 14, yeah. I was, let's see, in 83. I was born in 60. I was 22. So I've been married for 3 years. My wife and I got married at the age of 19, and we're still married 43 years strong. I love her to death. I'm glad that I found a good woman. So many of my friends and people I know weren't so fortunate. I'm very fortunate. Yep. When I first started driving, gasoline was, I think, 79 cents a gallon. That's crazy. And, I got one quick story to tell you guys on a car that, yeah, because it's so phenomenal and it's unbelievable almost, and it has nothing to do with performance, but does have to do with the gas prices. So, my wife and I, what we did is when we had our kids, we made a pact that we would take them on vacation every year. It was important to us that they got to do that every year. So, what we did, because it was inexpensive back then, we used to go to Myrtle Beach every year. And I had a little used car lot, and back then I didn't have any money. We were just getting the business started. We just got married. We were just having kids. A lot of things going on. So you know what? The cars that I had in my lot, I would use those for transportation. That's what we drove. And so, anyhow, one year for Myrtle Beach, because we needed something to haul our luggage and the kids, well, actually, our son, we didn't have our daughter yet, but I had on the lot a 1979 Plymouth Valari station wagon with a slant six. And so I put new brakes on that thing and new tires and got ready to go to Myrtle Beach. And so we head down to Myrtle Beach, and we'd usually stop at right around Wheeling, West Virginia, or Parkersburg, or somewhere right in there to buy gas. That's about our point where you're around a quarter tank of fuel and you don't want to get too low. So anyhow, and we traveled with a bunch of friends and family whenever we went down this time, and so we stopped in Parkersburg, I think it was, and I put gas in this thing, and now granted, this car had, I believe it had a 16 or 18 gallon tank on it. So, but the fuel gauge wasn't moving. And I'm thinking, okay, fuel gauge is broke, so I better stop. We better put gas in this thing because I don't know what I'm getting for fuel economy. So everybody's putting gas in, and everybody else is getting because gas at that time is $1 a gallon, and everybody's putting like 20 bucks, 18, $20 in their car because they used right around 18, 20 gallons of gas. And I put the nozzle in, and I pull it, and I'm getting ready to clean the windshield, and it clicks off in like seconds. And I look at the pump, and it says like $1.50. And I'm thinking, okay, there must be a gas bubble in the filler neck. I don't know. So anyhow, I fill it up, and fuel's coming out of the filler neck. I'm thinking, oh man, this isn't good. I'm hoping that there's not some kind of blockage in there and causing a problem. So I alerted everybody, telling me, you know what, keep an eye on me because I might run out of gas. I don't know. So now Parkersburg, from where I'm at, is roughly about 6 hours, maybe somewhere around there. So at 70 mile an hour, what is that? 6 times 7, right around, we'll say 350 miles. And so even if I was getting 20 mile a gallon, I should have used what? Probably 2 times 17, yeah, roughly 17 gallons of fuel. And it only took like a gallon and a half. And so I told my wife, I said, you know what, we might run out of gas. I don't know what's going on. The fuel tank wouldn't take any fuel, and it's coming out the filler neck. I tried to fill it up. So we drive all the way to Charlotte. That's our next stop for everybody to get gas. Everybody gets $18 to $20 worth of gas. I get another $1.50 in fuel, and it's coming out the filler neck. Now that sounds unbelievable. I don't even know what the fuel economy is. I think I figured it out one time, but it's stupid, crazy high. I don't even know, like 200 mile a gallon. I don't know, whatever it is. Well, a gallon and a half. It's like 300 miles to a gallon. And I tell this story to this day, and everybody doesn't believe me. And thank God that I had a group of people with me to verify what I'm saying is absolute truth. And we drove to Myrtle Beach, which is roughly a 12-hour drive, on like $4 worth of gasoline there and on the way back. So I should have kept that car and tried to figure out what in the world was going on. That thing, it was incredible. Now, slant sixes, because of the intake design, they got like a preheater underneath the carburetor. And I have a sneaky suspicion that it was probably getting really hot and it was atomizing the fuel better and turning into a vapor instead of a liquid. And that's why it was so fuel efficient. Because I know Smokey Unique, that's how he got 300 mile a gallon out of that Fiero that he did. When GM hired him to do, to figure out a car that gets high fuel mileage. And so the story goes on a little bit further. So what ended up happening, we get back from our vacation and we're amazed that the car gets that kind of fuel economy. And I drove it around for a little bit after we got back, and then eventually I sold that thing off the lot. And so an old fella bought the car, and he's had the car now for probably, I don't know, about 3 months. And he brings the car back, and he says, I need to have you change the fuel, fix the fuel pressure gauge on this thing because it doesn't move. And he says, and I didn't put any gas in it, but I don't drive very much. He said he drove around town. He said, but it's not moving, so I think the fuel gauge is bad. So we ended up dropping the tank on that thing, and we to see if we were having a problem with the tank, and the thing was full of fuel. It was still full of gas from the time I sold him the car. He did not add any fuel to it, and he had it for 3 months, and he's been driving around town. So I ended up, we put it all back together. Fuel gauge was working. I took the sending unit out. We checked it. It was working. Everything was fine. And so he ended up coming back to us a year later, and that car was just insanely good on gas. And that happened to me one other time. I did it for a customer. They had a Chevy station wagon, Malibu station wagon with a V6 in it. And they brought the car to me because it wouldn't pass emissions testing here in Ohio. And I rebuilt the carburetor, set it all up, retuned it, set the timing and everything. And they took it to get it e-checked, and it had zero emissions. And they called in the state officials to look at this car because zero emissions. And so anyhow, that car, after I got done doing that one, and that one had a preheater underneath the carburetor. So I'm thinking this got something to do with it. I don't know. But that car got over 100 mile a gallon. They verified that for sure. So, you can do it with a carburetor. You don't have to have fuel injection. It's not unheard of, and it's just crazy. But I wish I would have had more time to spend with those cars to figure out why they got that kind of fuel economy. But I suspect that it was a preheat thing that was going on, heating the fuel and turning into a vapor instead of a liquid. So sorry to bore you with that story, but it's just such a cool story. I thought that I'd share with you guys. So it looks like I'm about out of time here, guys. Appreciate everybody coming tonight. Looks like we had a pretty good crowd tonight. It's showing 45 right now. I don't know what we peaked at, but thank you guys. I appreciate y'all coming back every week. And next week, hopefully, we'll have something fun to talk about. I might see if we can get John with the LSA superchargers on, and we can share with you guys what we're going to do with those. So, yep, I'm going to peace out here. I appreciate everybody coming, and have a good evening.